Do you guys believe in curses from witches? Because that's what's happened to me in the last 48 hours of traveling back from Germany to the West Coast, and 90% of my equipment breaking and my flights getting delayed and the airlines losing my bag. Do you guys think that witch curses are real? Because I do now.
Have you seen Louis C.K.'s bit where he talks about he hears a noise in his kitchen and he just goes, "Oh, there's witches now." That's you.
Yeah,
that's you back home. You must have brought the Brothers Grimm's. What is it? The Black Forest from Germany. You must have brought that overseas here with yourself.
Dude, you are a man of culture with that. The Brothers Grimm with those fairy tales.
Oh yeah.
All of these. If you ever, Scott, okay, because you're a father, if you ever want to really, discipline your children in a very scary way, read them. German children fables. They are terrifying. They are horrifying. Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, Disney's watered them down so greatly. I mean, the originals are actually horrifying, even for adults.
Dude, they are absolutely wild. I can't believe they read them to kids. Okay, so there we go. So I'm
Nick, I'll put away the voodoo doll that I made of you. I'm going to put it away.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I knew it. You and your voodoo dolls. Yeah. Stop poking that. It's a miracle for everybody who's listening. It's an absolute miracle that this episode is happening right now due to all of the issues we faced this morning. But because we played sports and we learned the value and characteristics of determination and persevering through hardship, look at us, guys. We got here to the episode.
Yeah, you got here. I think that's Mikey and I were
we've been here. We've been sitting waiting like that.
No, well, that's the thing. We're a team, and you're only as good as your weakest link, and I've been our weakest link. Okay, sports lesson.
Good job, Nick.
There we go. All right. Hey, did you guys see this dude who bet $3 million on the Eagles to beat the Panthers yesterday? Here, Scott. I'm gonna toss this up here. This dude bet $3 million, thinking, okay, of course, like the Eagles, one of the best teams in the NFL, will smack the Panthers, one of the worst teams in the NFL. And that ended up being a close game. Hold on here.
Dude, if you have $3 million just to play around with, why bet on this game?
I know, dude. Also, like, because of the odds on it, he put up $3 million and he was set to win like 400 or 500,000. So it's like such a risk for, I mean, that's a lot of money to win, but it's like you're putting up a ton and putting all of this on the line. And they almost lost to the Panthers, dude.
Oh man. Yeah. Mikey, wouldn't you consider $3 million funny money? You should put it into what? What's your
okay. No more sports betting. This guy, I can manage his money. He's got to put it in some crypto, some AI coins now before Ethereum starts moving. Let me tell you, our audience, this is financial advice, actually, and I am legally responsible for what happens.
He has a fiduciary responsibility.
There are a lot of better ways to make 40. What is that? What's that percentage? That less than half on your money. I'm never saying that much.
But this is a Michael Scott investment here.
It is absolutely a Michael Scott investment. It's a blockbuster stock in the mid 2000s. Michael Scott investment. And here we see Xavier Legette, this receiver for the Panthers. Like, he was set right here. He dropped this pass that would have put them in position to tie the ball game with just a couple minutes left. Somebody threw up this meme. Are we sure Legette wasn't the person who bet $3 million on the Eagles? For an organization like the Panthers right now, who's had all these hardships, and actually now Bryce Young is seeming to have a new wave of success, and they had the chance to beat the Eagles, who is one of the best teams in the NFL right now, and you drop that potentially touchdown tying or games tying touchdown. That's got to be a bad feeling.
Yeah. Also, it's crazy. They're actually still in playoff contention, whereas like my Browns have been eliminated. I don't understand the math behind that, but I guess they could still somehow make the playoffs. They're not eliminated statistically.
That's because the NFC South is the worst division in all of sports. It's like it's always the team that comes out of that division is always like 500 at best, and they make the playoffs.
Yeah. Mikey, have you ever gotten into an offensive situation where you've dropped the ball like this?
Oh, I've never dropped a ball in a game. Ever. Sometimes I drop a ball in practice if I wasn't, particularly focused, but never in a game.
Never, ever in a game.
I was a clutch player.
Yeah, so this meme here of Legette possibly being the guy that bet the $3 million because he dropped what seems to be a kind of easy potentially touch or game tying touchdown pass right there. But speaking of teams that actually are trying to decrease their performance and tank, we've talked about the tanking on a couple episodes on here. The New York Giants, who are, of course, having an absolutely abysmal season. Scott, will you throw this up, please? The Giants fans, they had a chance for a game-tying field goal right here. And I'm going to play the audio on this because this is a home game for the Giants. And you're going to hear the Giants fans cheer when their kicker misses the game-tying field goal right here. Hold on.
Gillen the hold. The kick, no good.
Dude. Okay. So, obviously,
that is what sports is all about.
Like,
failing together.
Whoa. Failing together, and the fans of New York being thrilled, and presumably because now their team is in a better position for draft picks next year and continuing to tank. Scott, how do you feel about this? I have my opinion. Tell me how you feel.
Dude, this is brutal. Coming from a franchise or a fandom that's definitely been in a situation like this, I get why some fans are cheering, because their only sliver of hope is to potentially get a saving draft pick that will take them out of the dumpster that it is that the New York Giants have been this past year. So like, I don't know. I get the feeling, but it's also it's pretty sad to see an entire fan base cheering for your team to lose. Like, that's got to be so demoralizing. I feel like we're talking about Jackie Moon's team in the tropics down. It's just like, oh, we should definitely lose this game. Let's bring a bear for halftime and fight it. Like, that's where we're at.
A washing machine.
Jackie Moon, one of the greatest owners in the history of sports. Some of these NFL owners should take.
See, that's somebody Jerry Jones should try to emulate. Get more if you want to be more involved with the team. Start doing halftime shows, not making the GM decisions.
Jerry Jones is probably the closest owner in the NFL to Jackie Moon. I mean, he's meddling in everything. He's got his hand all over every aspect of that organization.
Yeah, Tepper is his Padawan right now. He's definitely lying in wait, waiting to take the reins from Jerry.
Dude, what do you think it is about some of these owners? Because some are so, let's say, good at owning an NFL franchise. They don't meddle, they hire properly, and they let the people whose job it is run the organization. Some of these families, for example, like the Chiefs, are very well run and well owned. But some of these owners, like the ones we just mentioned right now, are so meddling. What do you think it is? Is it just personality differences here? What is going on with some of these organizations?
Yeah, I think we've touched on this before. Like, in order to be an owner of a franchise, you have to be very successful financially in the business world or some other endeavor. Like, you have to have that sort of psycho businessman mentality that's accumulated billions upon billions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions, right? Or switch those. But anyway, like, you have to have that sort of psycho drive, and then bringing that to the franchises, like, clearly they're going to have some struggles to like keep their fingers out of it, to keep their sort of opinion and their decision making on the back burner, and just give it away to people who know the game better and know the players better and just know how to manage a team. But like, now in the new age of ownership, it doesn't feel like we have football guys at the helm, right? So it's all incumbent upon them to be able to hand the keys over to guys who know how to do things, like Sheila Ford Ham over in Detroit, giving it to Dan Campbell and the boys and just letting them run with it.
Dude, that's one thing that you hear about of a lot of really good leaders, and not just sports, but in a lot of different fields in business, is one of the great skills is delegation and hiring good people and letting those people do their job and not micromanaging them. And that is something that Jerry Jones, I think, is not able to do. He's micromanaging almost every aspect of it. And we're seeing kind of, similar woes here with the Giants. Hey, throw this up for me, Scott, here. What do you think? You think this guy's a Giants fan? This guy drinking a beer at the airport at 6 a.m. to watching the game?
Just fully support this as a Browns fan. Like, you got to do what you got to do to get through it. It's on to next year, baby.
Support the alcoholism. How do you
actually? It's 6 a.m. and you've already given up on the day. I'll try again tomorrow.
What do you guys think? Are you pro or anti anytime airport beers here?
Ooh, pre-flight drink, I totally understand. And as somebody who's scared of turbulence, as we learned on Friday.
That's right.
Are you not, Nick?
I am. Well, dude, I don't know. I like that early in the day. It is, Mikey, just what you said. Once you choose to have an alcoholic beverage, then you're totally pivoting your day, and it's sometimes it's tough to come back from that. Now, I've learned in Germany, because the Germans are all about like lunch beers, and they're very casual. Even breakfast beers, they're very casual with it. There are different ways to approach it, but for me, 6 a.m., I'd rather just be anxious and worried about the turbulence than turn my day like this.
This is the beauty of the airport. It's just the travel day is socially acceptable that there's no rules. You do whatever you want. That's, you know, you're getting on a plane stuck with a bunch of people. It's going to suck. But what's great is the social acceptance of, look, you can do whatever you want. Whatever you need. It's an airport. There's no judgment. Drink at 6 a.m. Who cares?
You know what? Let me push back on that. I don't think that we as a society should allow this degeneracy of this behavior to become mainstream just because we're at an airport or just because we are traveling. Can we not?
Travel days, typically, it's a wash for your production. So they just throw in the towel early. That's acceptable.
I don't know. I think that we're encouraging degeneracy here just because we have the excuse of we are moving our bodies from one location to another. Would you be allowed to murder somebody on a travel day, Mike? Do all of your morals fall by?
If you're flying Spirit Airlines, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. He's probably prepping for Spirit Airlines right now.
Yeah. You get a check bag and you get one free homicide.
There you go. Spirit. Scott, what's your stance?
Oh man, if he's going on Spirit Airlines, I'm pro. Otherwise, boy, he's probably going through the ringer in some portion of his life if he's sitting down for this.
Yeah, he's either a Browns fan or a Giants fan.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of your kin, Scott.
I embrace him.
Sorry.
I embrace him.
You know, nonetheless, big balls on this guy for putting up a beer before 6 a.m. here. You know who else? You know who else is known for big balls? Dan Campbell. Okay. Obviously, another big win for the Lions over the Packers this last week, 34-31. And obviously, we talk about Dan Campbell on the show a lot. I think we respect him as a guy and as a coach, all three of us. And he has proven to be really very gutsy and very ballsy in the way that he here, Scott, I'm going to throw this up, share this up, in the way that he leads his team. However, there was this quote here from Teddy Bruschi, who's basically shitting on Dan Campbell's strategy now that this team is sort of on the top of the NFL. He's essentially saying, hey, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep playing so riskily. You can't keep going for it on fourth down. You have to play essentially much more conservatively now that you're a top dog. Let me play this here, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this.
Give me Dan Campbell on the field with me. I'll take it. Yeah. Don't put Dan Campbell on my sideline. I don't know. I don't know the emotional control of this coach. I mean, every single time.
What?
Does it have to be every single time? The 4th and 1, when you're on the 31-yard line going out. That was obvious to me. I mean, this can't happen. I mean, this guy wants to go for it even now, and they get stopped right here and basically give Green Bay a touchdown because all they got to go is like 29 yards, and they score a touchdown here, and it's a different game. So you wouldn't have been in this situation maybe if you punt it and you let your defense play against a quarterback that has the tendency to throw to the other team also. This is every single time? Why does it have to be every single time? No, let me say something here, because Dan Campbell came into this league talking about being kicked down and biting on ankles and chewing on kneecaps. Well, there's no more, and let me tell you, Detroit Lion fans, there's no more ankles and kneecaps to bite. You're on top. Start playing like it and start coaching like it, because sometimes you got to know when to be in a game to where let the other team mess up because I know I'm better.
All right, I'm gonna cut it short there because that's give me your thoughts on that.
First off, I think he would have a leg to stand on here with his argumentation had they lost due to the decision, but they won. Right. And they seemingly win more often than not when he makes these decisions, say for last year's playoff game. And then even then, that was question mark as to whether or not that single play was what ended up making them lose. So it's just, I don't know. I feel like Teddy's just trying to stir something up here. And also, they're on top. But if they continue to play the way that they played in order to get to the top of the mountain, that's only going to keep them there. If they change the way that they're playing and the way that he coaches, I don't know if they're going to have the same level of success. Because if you start playing afraid to fail as opposed to trying to win, then everything gets changed, and like the entire mantra of your team and the entire like ethos of your team falls apart. So like I completely disagree with Teddy here. I think he's missing it totally.
Yeah.
I think his argument is kind of similar to some of the criticisms of Baker Mayfield when he's coming out, when he's like, okay, he's this guy, he's got a chip on his shoulder, he talks a lot of shit, and he, has this attitude, which can be a double-edged sword. And some of his criticism when he was in the league, it's like, dude, you were the number 1 overall pick. I know you were a walk-on, but you can lose the chip now. You're number 1 pick. Like, you're not undervalued anymore.
True.
Mikey.
That is a good point right there. However, I mean, do you like it does feel like Teddy Bruschi right here is just trying to be a contrarian here. I understand what he's saying. Yeah. Like when when you're at the top of the mountain, things are a little bit different here, but this is the entire, Scott, just like what you said, this is really the entire identity of the Detroit Lions. This is a gritty team that is ballsy, is gutsy, doesn't necessarily play it safe, and that's got them to this point now where they're one of the top teams in the NFL. Do you completely change your identity just because now it's gotten you here and now you're on the top? I don't think so at all. And also, we like to say, we like to say Dan Campbell loves going for it on 4th down. Also, it's in collaboration with Ben Johnson, one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL. And check this tweet out, Scott. Will you throw this back up? The Lions weren't even top 10 in 4th down attempts in the NFL coming into this week. Even after 5 on Thursday, they're 6th before the remaining games are played. And they're also top 5 in 4th down conversion. So there's a lot of like kind of prime time, big time moments where the Lions have gone for it on 4th down. So we think, they're always going for it. But the numbers indicate it's a little bit different than that too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I did not know that. And obviously we have the prime time bias here. I don't know. Going back to your point about changing, I think again, Teddy has something to say here if, say, the Lions become predictable in this. But I don't think there's a predictability here. I think they're so unpredictable. Like, you don't know what they're going to do come 4th down. And that's actually a massive weapon that they're not just going to willingly put down because, again, more often than not, they've been successful in doing this and wielding this because so many teams have gotten so complacent because this is what you do. This is how you do things. And like, that's how offenses will function. If there's 4th and 2 or beyond or higher, they're going to punt the ball and do anything like that. This is adding an element to the game that I think has been lost over the past 20 years, where people just got so formulaic in their approach and like, oh, this is the safe bet. Let's give it back to our defense. Let's have them win the game. So like I like the infusion of unpredictability that Dan Campbell has brought, the Lions have brought. And honestly, like keep doing it. Like keep doing it until it loses you multiple games in a row.
The unpredictability is super interesting. It's like interesting. What Luke was talking about on our Friday episode is the unpredictability of a guy like Max Crosby of the Raiders and how big of a factor that is when you're going against somebody. And just speaking of like, as a guy that used to play on defense, if you feel like, okay, we stopped the offense on 3rd down and we think that they're going to punt and they come back out on 4th down, they're going to go for it. That and you're not expecting that. That's a little bit of a jolt there. And God forbid they convert on that 4th down. That takes the wind out of your sails. And so I do think we gotta stop just having this formula of you always punt it on 4th down. I love this. It's good for the fans. It's exciting, and it's got the Lions in a really good spot. And that's just like their identity too. That's what Dan Campbell's all about.
Dude, it's also like, tell me about this. When I was playing defense, every time a team would come out and do this and go on 4th down, it's like it puts the defense on their heels a bit because they're expecting, okay, we got 3 and out. We're going to take a breather. We're going to go suck some air out of the camp and do all that kind of stuff. And we've done our job. But putting them on the heels and being like, oh shoot, we got to do this again. We got to stop them again. And they're coming downhill at us. Like, it's actually demoralizing. So it again, going to the weapon that they're wielding here. It's one that nobody's wielded before or as frequently as they seemingly have. Granted, your stats say something else, but like at the same time, this is I think ingenious of Dan, and I think he's just shaking it up. And I mean, you look at the political world; things are being shaken up right now, and like, oh, maybe we don't always have to do things the way that it's always been. Like, there are avenues that we can take advantage of within the confines and parameters of the game that people just haven't done. You know, like it's the path less trodden. Like, let's go down that.
Break the mold. Disruptors. It's the same thing in business. Startups.
Yes. Look at us.
Disrupt innovation.
We are disrupting the podcast space right now. Right? Are we?
I don't know. It's pretty to the mold.
We're fitting
Luke
right
was
in.
a disruptor. That's a disruptor.
Yeah, Luke was a disruptor. He disrupted my piece. All right. So obviously the Lions sitting on top of the NFC. Big game this weekend. Absolute shootout. A guy we talked a lot about last week, who's on top of the MVP odds right now, Josh Allen. Scott, will you throw this up, please? Yep. Once I can figure it out. All right.
Boom.
There it is.
Buttons.
Good. Boom. Bills losing to the LA Rams 42-44. Highest scoring game of the season so far. Josh Allen, 3 touchdown passes, 3 rushing touchdowns, and the team still lost. Josh Allen leaving it all out there on the field. And we talked about this last week, and I kind of pushed back on the whole Josh Allen thing is, does he really deserve to be number 1 in the MVP odds right now? I do think last night helped his case a little bit. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I wanted to bring this up. Like, even though they got the loss and he performed similarly to how Joe Burrow has been balling out, 3+ tuds, 500+ yards in multiple games, even though they lose, like, does this start to solidify, hey, okay, the wins and losses, they come into play, but like there's something different that I think Josh Allen brings to his team. Because they win more often. I mean, we're talking about Dan Campbell going on 4th down and them getting 4th down conversions more frequently. Like, that matters. So, like, in the same sense, wins do matter, even though they walk away with a loss. But one thing I do want to highlight here is Matt Stafford in the past, the first 9 games, he threw 9 tuds and 7 interceptions.
Yep.
In the past 4 games, he's 10-0, 10 tuds to 0 interceptions. So, like,
damn.
This is actually really interesting for the Rams side. Everybody's going to be talking about Josh Allen here, obviously, because that's insane, 3-3. But I think the Rams are doing something kind of special here, and Stafford is behind it.
Dude, you're right. Because obviously, like at the start of the season, that's when he was missing some of his receivers, like Puka and Cooper were banged up a little bit. And that's just very, very difficult for a quarterback without their elite targets or their elite weapons right there. Dude, that NFC West with the Rams and the Seahawks, like that division is so up for grabs right now. Who do you think's going to come out of that?
Well, I'm making my comments right there. The Rams are playing just absolutely on fire right now. So I'm going to say Rams because you got somebody like Stafford, who is arguably the best ball thrower in the NFL, right? You have everybody talking about Aaron Rodgers having the arm of the century or the arm of the decade, right? I think Matt Stafford is right there too. And he got lost in the tumultuous time during the Lions and at the Lions, but since came to the Rams and won the Super Bowl, I don't think he gets as much clout as he probably deserves. And for how long he's been doing this and just slinging the rock, like, dude, I'm putting my money on Matt Stafford, not so much McVay, but Stafford.
Whoa, really? Not so much McVay. That's interesting because McVay is, always, touted as sort of the wunderkind of the NFL. German word, by the way, wunderkind of the NFL. Why do you say that about McVay, Scott?
Well, I don't know, because you look. Okay, I would say this: without the pieces that he had in Cooper and Puka, he didn't necessarily show the coaching prowess that I thought would come through in the first half of the season. I mean, I guess that cuts against my argument that Stafford was also producing because he was behind center and throwing a lot of interceptions as well. But I also think it there was a lack of cohesion that I think good coaches are able to kind of they're able to mend, at least in the immediate term, when there are injuries. I mean, you look at the Lions going back to them. I was
just going to say the Lions.
They have so many injuries, specifically on the defensive side, and their DC Glenn is just absolutely balling out and putting that together. And they've changed up the way they approach the game. So he's adjusted, they've adjusted, but I don't think the Rams adjusted in the same way or the same fashion.
That's a huge testament that with the Lions there. That's a huge testament to the culture and defensive culture there, sort of next man up. I think, and tell me if you guys disagree with this, I think it is easier to maintain a certain level of success in sort of the next man up situation with injuries on defense as opposed to offense. I think it's much harder to replace, a star wide receiver than it is for the second string linebacker to come in.
Anybody who touches the ball a lot is going to be hard to replace. A receiver, a running back, like that drop off, because I think there's such a level of just comfort and mental battle offensively, because carrying the ball is such a high pressure situation versus just being on defense. It's all 11 of you guys going for one thing versus I don't know. There's a different mental aspect to being a ball carrier versus being a part of the defense.
It seems like you're trying to devalue what me and my defensive brethren do.
Yes. Yes.
Just a bit. Oh, okay. I'll further Mikey's answer in saying, like, I think defense it's much more reactionary, right? That's like the basis of that sort of side of the ball, right? You have to react. You don't know what's coming. Like, you have a good idea, obviously, watching film and doing all that stuff and studying the offenses and their philosophies and their approaches. But like, I think putting in a linebacker who plays with reckless abandon, they're far more reactionary and they're able to do more physically without being confined within the scheme of things as much as offensive players. And like, offenses and coordinators, they utilize the skills of their offensive players to a T. Whereas like defenders, they're just like, hey, see ball, get ball to a certain extent. And the more you do that, the more valuable you are. So like going to Luke, and you were mentioning like him talking about how Max Crosby is just like unpredictable. Like it's the same thing. He's just see ball, get ball, and you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's, it's very, very difficult to replace sort of the talent and skill of an elite offensive weapon or a wide receiver who has a specific, say they're a deep ball threat or something along these lines. Whereas you could put in a second string linebacker who's maybe not as talented as the starter, but he can have just as high as a motor, and he can still kind of make an impact on the
motor guy
on the unit. Yeah, motor guy. Okay, high motor guy. But yeah, Josh Allen really putting it up here, he's getting to understand what my boy Joe Burrow, check this out, has been going through this entire season. Look, you leave it all out in the field. You have an incredible stats, just an all-time performance, and you still lose because your defense allows 44 damn points. So a little solidarity there with my guy, Joe Burrow. Don't you think?
Yeah, he got a little bit of the Burrow medicine here. And man, this one's got to be tough to swallow. But with McDermott at the helm, and he's such a defensive mind, I don't think this is going to happen more than one time in the year that, if Josh Allen's balling out like this, 99.9% of the time they're winning. Whereas clearly the Bengals don't have that same sort of luxury.
Yeah. Well, so the Bills now, I think, what are they, 2 games out on the AFC 1 seed, and like the Chiefs have that pretty locked up right now.
I think they've won it like 7 or 9 years in a row. Just the AFC West. It's ridiculous.
Like seeing those playoff games at Arrowhead, that's awesome. Really, really cool venue for football. Very unique. However, seeing some December and January games in the Bills Stadium in Buffalo, having all of those home playoff games be in Buffalo, that would also be really, really interesting. We just saw that one last week with all of the snow and the 49ers, and just it's such an interesting aspect to throw into a game.
Oh yeah. I'm hoping there's a whole lot of snow on the ground for these playoff games, whether it be in Kansas City or Buffalo.
Yeah, Scott, you can make your snowman, have a snowball fight. Mike, you want to do that when you get home?
Sure, we can do snow angels.
Snow angels, all sorts. Mike, you do have a question for us, a musing, I believe. You saw a young child sort of betray his fandom here. I'm going to throw this up, Mikey, and you tell us.
Put this one on there.
What?
You got to put this one on there.
All right.
Come on, Trey, let's go.
All right. What?
Oh, man.
You saw my ball.
Hey, Trevor, can we get a picture of it? Hey, for real.
You're going to be banned. You're going to be banned. Trevor, can you sign this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I know this hurts Scott. This hits home for Scott more so than Nick, because Nick's Scott's a real fan. And so somebody like this who's decked out fully in Philly gear. Okay. They're in a group, they're family. It's a Philly family. You can't get much tighter that fandom, that bond to the team. Throws it all away. Chuba Hubbard's ski mask, a $15 ski mask. This kid, my question to you guys is, his price was $15 for a ski mask to turn his back on his team. What would it take for you guys to make a switch on something like this?
To pull a full turncoat Benedict Arnold here, Judas, just switch on a lifetime of loyalty to your family and to an organization? I don't know, Scott. You're the one who's really a true fan of a team. Where you lie on this?
Man, this would have to be, the price is quite high, right? So like I would not go for $15 head thing. What was it? A face mask?
Yeah, ski mask.
Yeah, with a little sweat from a favorite player of mine. Like that's, yeah.
I'm never washing this.
That's not what I'm going for. The price tag, I don't even know, man. It would have to be triple digits.
Really?
Scott,
$100 cash. You'll turn your back on the Browns.
I hope you're talking triple digits Bitcoin.
Just think of the weight that would be off of your back. You don't have to be rooting
my.
for them, emotionally tied to their performance.
No, that's the thing is like I've been so emotionally damaged over time that like I still love them, but I also don't care because I know each year in and year out I'm just going to be disappointed. So the disappointment's always there, and I'm ready for it. But
you know what?
There's
actually being a fan of such a horrible, horrendous institution like the Cleveland Browns, Scott. That is actually really good for your emotional durability. You've developed some sort of like emotional callus over the years, which
anti-fragility.
Yeah, you're very anti-fragile. One could argue sports is supposed to provide a value to our life, whether that be entertainment, camaraderie, brotherhood, what have you. But also sports is providing a specific value to your life, Scott, and to your family's life by developing this toughness of this emotional burden.
Yeah, you know, I appreciate the way you've defined it here, but I probably approach it more as like, I'm going to use the word sophomoric, Holden Caulfield-esque sort of approach to life. Where, you know, it's just like, oh, everything's, what was the word he used to use in Catcher in the Rye? It was just like, everything's baloney or whatever.
Phony.
Oh, yeah.
Phony. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's that same sort of approach that I'm implementing here with the Cleveland Browns because they've hurt me so many times that's like, that's the way I'm approaching it.
Okay.
But okay, putting it in your shoes, how much would it take you to switch to being an Oregon Duck fan?
Wow. Okay, that's good.
Okay, that's good. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Literally, I don't think you could give me anything because it's so ingrained. And I do despise the Oregon Ducks so much. Our family just bleeds orange here. You guys can't see it, but there's a shit ton of Oregon State Hamilton memorabilia around here. Can you see this orange right here? That's our dad's.
You see the bottom corner.
See the bottom corner. Okay. That is our dad's Oregon State University jersey. Mikey obviously played there. Our brother Andy plays there right now. So it's silly to think like, okay, it's just a sports team. You know, why don't you just cheer for the Oregon Ducks? It is, however, actually a complete betrayal of your family and everything you stand for as a human being. So is there a price? It's probably not triple digits, maybe 4 digits.
4 digits.
4 digits.
Okay.
Mike?
Here we go. I got a lot to say. Wait. The other thing is, this is also a testament to Chuba Hubbard's sales ability. Okay.
True. Yeah.
Convert a child fan after a loss like that.
Wow.
It's pretty good sales. He should be working in lumber. Okay. For me to turn my back on Oregon State. When I was at Oregon State, I did when we played Oregon and when I had friends playing at Oregon and I would hear about the way that they conducted things inside their building and the discipline and the standards that they held to. I thought that from what I heard, I really respected their culture inside the building. Stuff like in team meetings, you can't wear a hood or you get kicked out. Or if you wear a hat, you get kicked out. And I look around like our team meeting. It's just like little examples like that of just sloppiness that gets able to slide. And we just hate Oregon because they have all this money. Okay, they have the money, but also they're putting in the work. They have a lot of discipline. And I would hear about, the kind of workouts and sometimes they're like, man, those workouts are harder than ours. And so there was a point at Oregon State, I was like, they have a better culture than us. They're more disciplined than us. I can't hate on that. It's actually, we should be striving for that.
Wow. You know what, Mike? That's actually,
the surface level fandom and you're falling in love with the colors and
the colors. Are you trying to say that I just am falling in love with the colors, Mike? Is that what you're
Jerry Seinfeld has a great bit about this, talking about sports fans and how players are moving between teams all the time. And it's like, when you really boil it down, you're rooting for this style of laundry versus that style of laundry. The guy's wearing a different shirt and you hate him all of a sudden.
I'm rooting for a logo and a shirt.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That is actually interesting about the culture of Oregon, because that's true. I mean, I do kid. I joke. I do respect a guy like Dan Lanning. And just seeing some of the stuff that's, even just some of the video clips or his pregame speeches that he's given, it's that type of really authentic communication that we have talked about on this show that we really admire from a coaching staff. So you do have to give him that. I think it's just for me, like the fans of the Oregon Ducks, like that is one.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, one of the worst fan bases, not in just college sports, but in sports globally, be it soccer in Europe or cricket in India. You're not going to find a more annoying fan base than the Oregon Ducks. Okay,
that's so true. And when we played at Autzen, they treated us horribly. Right. Now, given we're rivals, but like they're just throwing stuff. And Oregon sideline is so close. Like the first row of fans are like 8 feet behind you, so there's no space on the sideline. But they'll just throwing things, saying horrible things the whole time. It was the worst treatment of any team that we'd ever been in an away stadium at.
This is going to be news to you guys, but I have to admit, when I was originally moving from South Bend, Indiana, I was intrigued with the Oregon Ducks, and I was actually somewhat of a fan. So I liked Joey Harrington back in the days, but when we moved to Portland, I have to admit, the Oregon fans turned me off, and I had to abandon that fandom. And like as loose as it may have been, I was just like, nah, I'm good. I'm
good.
I'm gonna be a Notre Dame fan.
Good, Scott. I am proud of you for getting that information and feeling it. Fun fact, Joey Harrington, actually, I reffed his son's basketball game. He was the coach. His son was playing, and I was the ref. Me and Andy were the refs. It was for CYO, Catholic Youth Organization basketball. And he was one of the best behaved and most pleasant coaches to officiate for. Usually in youth sports, you get just kind of asshole coaches and parents who are just chippy and think that this is the Super Bowl. He was incredible. So I do have to give Joey Harrington that. He was very classy and good to officiate for.
How many tees did you give his kid?
0 tees. I only tee up my family when they're pissing me off. Watch it, Mike.
It's only nepotistic technicals he does.
Well, it's the inverse of nepotism. Okay?
Yeah.
1 over nepotism. Thank you. All right. Speaking of the Oregon Ducks here, we unfortunately have to give them props because they are number 1 seed here for the college football final.
Only undefeated team, right?
Right here. Only undefeated team. Here is the final bracket. Can you guys see that well enough? Here, let me make it slightly bigger. There we go. Final 12-team playoff lineup here. Interesting of the teams that have buys. Oregon and Georgia, kind of 2 heavyweight juggernauts. And then Boise State and Arizona State also earning those first round buys. Scott, thoughts on how this all shook out and how you're feeling about the 12-team playoff right
now? Look, I think it's egregious that Penn State was slotted above Notre Dame. I don't understand this Big Ten love, and I think it's just ultimately the CFP can't afford for the SEC to look bad as well as the Big Ten. So I think that's why they slotted Penn State. And I know like SMU is going to be up in arms, as is Boise State, about saying like, they have the easiest path, Penn State does, to get to the Final Four, right? But they do. Like, let's be real here. SMU is a great team, but they lost.
Right.
Boise State is a great team, but they play liberal West Coast colleges quite frequently. So it's just like, there's no other way to cut it. And I find it kind of insulting that they're just like, you know what, we can't have 2 Indiana teams in the playoffs, so let's just have them duke it out in the first round, get rid of one of them, and then move on. Them facing Georgia is a little frustrating, but also I think it was a great move to keep Alabama out of the conversation and out of the CFP this year. I just find it frustrating. Like, they don't support the SEC this time consciously, but then they prop up the Big Ten because they have to have those 2 conferences like as their main horses in the stable.
Right. I like what you said there. Check out this tweet. Can you guys see that?
Cannot read it. It's so small.
All right, hold on here. Let's get you some glasses. Command plus. Let's see if this computer works. It's not. All right. Option Command plus. Oh, here we go. All right, hold on. How about that? Can you read that? For our listener audience.
Oh, yeah.
Argenti's numbers tainted since he did all this against all liberal West Coast teams. I need to see him against a linebacker who's been dreaming of a border wall since he was 11.
That is a
Now,
beautiful tweet.
It's a damn good tweet right there from big content guy. It's hilarious. And you know what? There's kind of something to this. This has been a little bit of a criticism of the West Coast of college football, and this before all of the realignment with conferences. This is what everybody liked to bash on the Pac-12 for, that it was kind of like a little bit softer, West Coast teams. It's not Midwest, Big Ten, or Southern SEC football. There is something to this, don't you guys think?
Yeah. Think about like a Nebraska linebacker who's been bailing hay his whole life. Like, that's a different guy to go against than a West Coast flashy California recruit who's all speed and just wants the attention. There's just a different mindset of player that you're going against.
Oh yeah.
I feel that.
Well, piggybacking off of this, I don't want to go like too far away from the CFP bracket here, but like there is the conversation going on right now about how California recruits are like a 5-star California recruit is more like a 3-star Texas recruit.
Oh yeah.
The style of athlete and the softness of the athlete in the narratives terms, right. Is very apparent when they go and play in other regions. Right. So you look at like SC has been dominant in recruiting Southern Cal guys, but they have been floundering for over a decade now, obviously with NCAA restrictions and all that kind of stuff. True. But over the past 3 years, like it's been showing itself to be a problem. So now they've expanded, and Lincoln Riley went out and got like big recruits out of Louisiana and all that kind of stuff. So I wonder, what are your guys' thoughts there? Because I think the argumentation is that coaching in the West Coast is so good that at the high school level that it actually elevates and inflates players than to a certain degree than they actually are.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. And it kind of shames me to talk about this, as we are West Coast guys and we're West Coast football players.
Yeah, but we're from Oregon. It's a little tougher.
That's true. We are the descendants of the people that went on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Okay? Talking about toughness. All right. We came here covered wagon. Well,
you guys also we also played in weather, right? Southern California doesn't really play in the elements.
Well, there's a lot I can say about Southern California. They are soft there, but it's true. There's such elite coaching. It's so interesting. This is like a huge part of the discourse about why people are upset with the college football playoff and some of these teams that are getting in over, for example, in Alabama. Because when you look at actually some of these rosters and just the talent that is on these rosters in terms of NFL prospects, a team like Alabama is far more talented in terms of individual players than a team like SMU, for example. And when you break it down player by player, there is a case to be made. A case to be made here. My question, what do you guys think of this? This is an alternative version of the college football playoff if they did not do the guaranteed first round buys for the conference champion. And let me throw this up here. That is what it would look like. We'd have Oregon, Penn State, Georgia, and Texas with first round buys. And you'd have Indiana and Boise State playing each other first round. I like that matchup. Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Arizona State, and then Tennessee, SMU. So this is like a far different picture here. Do you think this is more interesting?
Yeah, I think for first round matchups, this is definitely more interesting and it makes more sense. I still have gripes with Penn State being where they're at, especially with two Big Ten teams like Penn State. Dude, I don't know. There's something about them that just rubs me the wrong way. And every time they go to a big game, I mean, again, this cuts against my argumentation here with Notre Dame, but every time they go to a big game, they underperform badly. So like having them with a first round bye is frustrating to see. But overall, like this doesn't look too bad outside of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure some of these first round games are quite interesting, like that Indiana Boise State. I mean, props to Boise State for everything that they've done, but it does feel a little backwards and silly that they have a first round bye. It doesn't sit right with me in terms of the reality of the situation. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the first round buys are big question marks. And now you got people, especially at Alabama, saying like, oh, okay, we should just create, pancake schedules, right? Like outside of the SEC, because the SEC is good enough as is. But it's like, dude, at a certain point, you got to look at your schedule and see you had an 8-5 Western Kentucky team, 6-6 USF team, a 5-7 Wisconsin team, and an FCS school in Mercer that you had on your schedule. So what are you talking about creating a more like pancake schedule outside of the SEC. Like, you have one. And also, you got slaughtered by a 6-6 Oklahoma team. And then
dude.
you also lost to Vandy, whom your former great coach, Nick Saban, said is the easiest place to play in the SEC, which is a slam dunk because they have been garbage. You lost to them too. So, like, you really don't have a leg to stand on there.
They're trying to say, okay, we're going to schedule easier out of conference games. 2 of your 3 losses were in conference.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
To the worst teams in the conference, too.
To the worst teams in the conference. We pop this up here. Hilarious tweet that is also very accurate. Ryan Day needs to beat Tennessee, Oregon, then probably Texas and Georgia to save his job. Good luck, brother. This is kind of a serious conversation right now. Like, no matter even how good Ohio State is and how highly ranked they are, but these losses, few losses, for example, to Michigan and Ryan Day unable to beat Michigan, it throws away all of the positives. And he's truly in the conversation as being on the hot seat. And the only way out probably is if they win the national championship. What do you think?
Yeah, they at least have to get to the Final Four in order for him to be safe, because losing to Michigan as many times as he has is going to – Ohio State fan base is already just furious and on fire with him. So, like,
do you think that's fair? Do you think that's fair to him, like, to have that high of expectations that you go 10-2 and are a top 5 or top 7, whatever they end up being ranked, that you're on the hot seat simply because you didn't beat the one rival?
No, I don't think it's fair, but I also don't think that this whole system is fair on a multitude of levels. Like, it's just like the university at some point is going to have to cater to the will of the fans. But at the same time, you look at the university and you wonder, like, hey, okay, you're on the cusp. Yeah, you spent, I don't know, some $20 million on this roster and you just didn't get it done. But is that necessarily due to Ryan Day? I don't fully know the answer to that question. Like, I don't think it's fair, but they're going to bend the knee to the fans, and that's ultimately what's going to happen.
Well, bend the knee to the fans. What do you think of this? So I'm not going to play the audio of it, but it's Cam Newton, basically, if you throw this up here, talking shit, saying nobody wants to see SMU or Arizona State or Indiana or Boise State in the college football playoff. I did just say that it doesn't feel right for Boise State to be having a first round bye, but I still love that they're in the playoff. I think it would make a little bit more sense to get rid of the automatic bye for the conference champions, because I think we have a bit of a disparity now in the level of talent from conference to conference. It's not all equal. And so for having each champion get the first round bye, I don't love that, but I do love that the playoff does give us the opportunity to see some of these teams that we've not seen in a playoff system before be able to compete, and against teams that we haven't seen them compete against. What do you think?
Yeah, there's some truth in what Cam's saying here and the way in which he's saying it. Like, everybody knows it. It's hard to argue because they did perform. The rules had been set prior to this entire selection process. Like, we all knew this was coming down the pipe. So as to what team would actually make it, that was the big question mark, depending on how the season went. But, like, that's why I think we got to go to the 24 team playoff like, as soon as possible, because then this eliminates a lot of this back and forth. And then this, like, we'll see, based on the product on the field as to who actually deserves to be there based on wins and losses and how they perform. So, like, right. I don't know. There's an element of truth here that I agree with Cam. Like,
well, Mikey, let me ask you this. Do you think a person that is dressed like this has any credibility in what they're saying?
Out the window immediately. Look, your appearance is so important. You're wearing all your decisions for the day for everybody to see. Okay, they're going to make assumptions of you right away. What are you communicating? I'm a clown. I'm a court jester. Okay, I need attention bad. I'm going to say whatever I need to say to get attention. That's what you're communicating. It's hard to take it seriously.
Hey, I'm with, yeah, it is. You're dressing up sort of like a clown. And it's like, I struggle to then take your judgments and your thoughts 100% seriously, because what are you doing here? I think, wear the black, look at what we got here. Black t-shirt. Okay.
Yeah, see, this shows confidence in my words, because I don't need the fancy get up. for my words to come across.
Scott,
That's what it says. The costume is insecurity in your opinions.
True, Scott. You're okay right now, Scott, but you are pushing it a little bit with the checkered pattern flannel. Okay.
Yeah, the squares, the alternating squares are really, really flirting with it. I think the background is probably more my flair.
Yeah, you got good flair right there. So I don't know. Cam, did you see when Cam, like he does his vlog, he does his YouTube stuff. And he's always got a lot to say. And he was going up to he was at the Colorado game, going up to Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders before the game, and there was clips of him, trying to talk to him and chit chat as they're warming up. And Shedeur Sanders kind of just blowing him off. It's like, bro, I'm trying to warm up. What are you doing? Did you see those?
Yeah, dude. I agree with him in that respect, Sanders. Like, just leave me alone right now. Not everything's about you just because you have a camera on you. Like, that goes for us too, right?
That's for us.
No, not for me. Camera's on.
There you go. Okay, so there we go. We got college football playoff. The first ever 12-team playoff is set. Going to be interesting. We're just under an hour right now. I just want to really quickly get your guys' thoughts on this, and maybe we can talk more about it on the next episode or later in the week. But former Milwaukee Bucks owner, Scott, will you throw this up, please?
Yeah.
Former Milwaukee Bucks owner Mark Lazary says he is actively trying to buy college football and basketball teams. He says certain colleges could sell a 51% stake in their teams at a $500 million to $750 million valuation and then use that money for NIL and facility upgrades. Wow. What are your emotions and feelings on this?
It's weird to see this in words, like written out, but it feels like this is inevitable. Like the universities, I think I mentioned this in a couple episodes before, but the way I see this playing out with NIL and how the direction of the sports and college sports is going is like they're essentially going to separate, specifically football. They're going to separate from the university, and what the organizations and teams are going to do is just license the name of the university so that they can keep the mascot and the colors and the jerseys and everything the same. But they're going to be operating as a separate entity. They're going to be operating as a football organization, a football club, if you will, which would then lend toward this making a whole lot of sense. The university could have that 49% stake, but then the investors have that 51%, and they can do with it what they will.
Dude, man, that'd be crazy as a fan to be able to invest in your teams. Right. Then, there's going to be a trading. It's going to be a whole new market.
Yeah.
I'm going to day trade college football team stocks.
You guys, I hate this so much.
I think it's sick.
I know.
So cool. You're going to buy stock in your favorite teams. What better way to show support? I'll be shorting a lot of teams.
Yeah, every team's going to turn into the Green Bay Packers, where they don't have a singular owner. It's owned by many people.
They probably pay great dividends.
I don't know, guys. I don't know. We're dismantling one of the United States of America's great institutions of college football, college sports connected to a university. This is so unique. Nowhere else in the world do we have this type of system with sports.
Yeah, okay, yes. But also, if I wasn't playing football, I would not have gone to college. I didn't learn one thing in college. I thought the whole time, this is so stupid. This should not be. I shouldn't be forced to go here just because I want to play football. There should be, I think you'll have a better football product if you separate school. And also, you're going to get a wider pool of great players.
Yeah, we already have a professional league. We also have like the UFL now too. So like this is aiming college football to become a version of the UFL or like what the XFL was.
Oh yeah.
What we need another one of those? Another fake semi-pro league?
I don't say that I love it, but it's inevitable. Like this is happening and in real time. Just I think over the past 5 years, it broke the dam. Everything is going to occur this way, and it's only going to be operated as a business moving forward. And like now that the players are getting, inevitably they will unionize. That's my opinion. Once that happens, the whole thing changes, and college ball is not going to be the same. I mean, college sports, there may be an element of it that remains the same, but football specifically, the revenue generator, that's going to change the game.
Dark times. These are dark times in our country, dismantling one of the pillars of our society, and it makes me sad. Okay, it makes me very sad.
Blah, blah, blah.
All right, there
Listen,
we go.
it's the future, okay?
You gotta get with the future, man.
You're like the guy who was anti-internet. Once this whole internet fad's over, you guys will see. White
Yeah,
fruit.
just wait. This internet fad will be over in about 5 more years. We'll go back to fax machines. That's like Germany today.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started, Mike.
In Germany, I had to make an appointment to print off a piece of paper because finding a printer was like hard.
Tough. Some societies are different. All right, so there we
Gotta
have
go
it.
back to the Gutenberg.
Hey, the printing press. Good stuff. Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit more about this on Wednesday and just kind of the direction this is all headed. But there we go. Hey, guys, despite literally everything going wrong this morning and me being cursed and trying to bring down the show against all odds, we were able to do a show.
We did it. We did it. We got something recorded.
Nick,
That's
stop
fine.
saying you're cursed. You're blessed. Okay, you're blessed.
Right,
You're blessed.
yeah, you're right.
Can't-
I beat the curse.
Words have power. Why don't you
All right.
learn a little bit about quantum physics for once?
All right, you're right. You're right. No, we're blessed. The curse is over. We defeated it, and we got
Curse is
next.
over.
It's
Curse is
over. Prickle.
Scott, that's the title of this episode. Curse is over. There we go. Episode 13 or 12, whatever we are. All right. Good stuff. Everyone, thank you for listening or watching us. And we will see you on Wednesday. Peace.